I, 26M, am shaking with rage as I type this. I literally just had the most insane, reality-shattering conversation of my life with my parents. And I feel like I'm losing my mind. I need a sanity check before I do something I can't take back. Here's the background. I work in the tech industry and make a decent living. When I graduated from college 4 years ago, I moved back in with my parents to save aggressively for a down payment on a house. We had a clear verbal agreement. I would transfer $1,500 to them on the first of every month. This wasn't rent. This was me, their son, giving them my savings to hold in a separate account so I wouldn't be tempted to touch it. They promised they would safeguard it, maybe even put it in a high-yield savings account, and when I was ready to buy a house, the full amount would be there for me. For 4 years, I did exactly that. 48 months, $1,500 every single time, without fail. That's $72,000. I lived frugally, drove a 10-year-old car, and skipped vacations with friends. Every time I felt a little bummed about it, I pictured myself getting the keys to my own place. That money was my future. Meanwhile, my sister, 28F, has always been the golden child. She can do no wrong. She's a part-time influencer who changes career paths every 6 months, always funded by my parents. Last year, she got engaged to an equally useless guy, and the wedding planning began. My parents were ecstatic. Everything had to be perfect, a real-life fairy tale for their perfect daughter. I was happy for her, but the scale of the wedding seemed extravagant. We're a comfortable middle-class family, not the Rockefellers. But every time I brought it up, my mom would just say, "Don't worry, we have it covered." Last month, I finally got pre-approved for a mortgage. The housing market is tough, but I found a small, perfect starter home. It needed some work, but it was in a good neighborhood. The down payment and closing costs came to about $68,000. I was ecstatic. I called my parents, bubbling with excitement, and told them I'd found the one. I told them I needed the house fund. There was silence on the phone. My mom said, "Oh, honey, can we talk about this tonight?" The excitement in her voice was gone. I felt a pit in my stomach. When I got home from work, my mom and dad were sitting at the kitchen table with grim faces. I knew something was wrong. My dad wouldn't look at me. My mom started, "We are so proud of you for being so responsible." I said, "Thanks. So, about the money, the realtor needs proof of funds, so if you could transfer it over, that would be great." My dad finally spoke. "Son, there's been a change of plans." He then explained that my sister's wedding had a lot of unexpected costs. The venue she wanted, the designer dress, the celebrity-inspired floral arrangements, it all added up. And they had used the money, my money, to pay for it. All of it. All $72,000. I just stared at them. I thought it was a joke. I actually laughed. Very funny. Now, where's my money? That's when my mom's tone shifted. "Don't be so selfish, OP. Your sister was in a bind. This was her special day. We knew you'd understand. It's for family." I lost it. I yelled. I asked them how they could betray me like that, how they could steal my future. And then my dad dropped the line that made my blood run cold. "Stole? Don't be so dramatic. You lived in our house for 4 years. You ate our food. You used our electricity. Let's just call the money rent. Honestly, $1,500 a month is a bargain in this area. We should have been charging you more." I felt the air leave my lungs. Rent? That was never the agreement. We had an agreement. My mom chimed in. "Verbal agreements don't count for much, do they? We raised you. We housed you. You owe us. This just makes us even. Now don't you dare ruin your sister's happiness over a little bit of money." I saw red. Through my fury, a single, horrible, beautiful thought emerged. Fine, I said, my voice shaking. If it was rent, then you've been my landlords. And for the past 4 years, you've been collecting $18,000 a year in undeclared rental income. If you don't find a way to get my $72,000 back to me within 2 weeks, I am going to the IRS and reporting you for tax fraud. They looked like they'd been slapped. My dad started sputtering about how I was an ungrateful monster, and my mom burst into tears, wailing about how I would send my own parents to jail. I packed a bag and left. I'm at a friend's place now. My phone is blowing up with texts from them and my sister calling me an asshole for trying to ruin her wedding. I don't know what to do. They betrayed me on a fundamental level, but the idea of actually reporting them to the IRS feels insane. But they stole my dream from me and then spat in my face. So, IETA, if I go through with it? TLDR. My parents held $72K of my savings for a house down payment. They spent it all on my sister's lavish wedding. When I confronted them, they said it was rent for the past 4 years. I told them if it was rent, they owe taxes on it, and I'll report them to the IRS for tax fraud if they don't give it back. Now, the whole family is calling me a monster. Part 2. The Update subreddit, r am the asshole, posted by you Throwaway House Fun 72. Title, Update, Ayata for telling my parents I will report them for tax fraud. It's been 2 weeks since my original post. First, thank you to everyone for the comments. The overwhelming NTA verdict and the advice gave me the clarity I desperately needed. Things have escalated. I tried to be the bigger person. I cooled off for a few days and then sent my parents a calm, unemotional email. I laid out the original agreement and the total amount they owed me. I ignored the rent argument and proposed a solution. Sign a legally binding promissory note with a repayment schedule. I was willing to be flexible on the timeline. I told them this was their only off-ramp before I took more serious action. The response was not what I hoped for. My dad replied with a 1-sentence email, "We will not be threatened into signing anything." Then came the phone call from my sister, the bride-to-be. I shouldn't have answered. She didn't even say hello. She just shrieked, "You are a selfish, jealous monster. You're trying to ruin my special day because you can't stand to see me happy." I tried to explain that this was about our parents stealing my life savings, not about her. She wasn't having it. My wedding is the most important day of my life. You got to live at home for free, and now you want to punish Mom and Dad just because they helped me out. It was their money to give. "It was my money, Sarah," I yelled back. "The money for my house." "Houses are just things," she screamed. "My wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime memory that you're trying to cancel. I can't believe I'm related to you." She hung up. That call was the turning point. I realized they were a united front of delusion. They had completely rewritten history to cast me as the villain and her as the victim. There would be no reasoning. There would be no promissory note. The money was gone. The next day, I found a small apartment and moved my stuff out of my parents' house while they were out. It was a pathetic sight. Just a few boxes and a mattress. Everything I had worked for was gone. On the advice of several comments, I booked a consultation with a CPA. I laid out the whole story, the verbal agreement, the monthly $1,500 transfers, and my parents' sudden claim that it was rent. The CPA listened patiently, nodding. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "Well, they've made a very, very stupid mistake." He then walked me through the beautiful, brutal logic. If they insist these payments were rent, he explained. Then they have been operating as landlords without reporting the income for 4 years. He started scribbling on a notepad. That's $18,000 a year in undeclared income. The IRS doesn't just ask for the taxes owed. They add a failure to pay penalty, an accuracy-related penalty for substantial understatement of income, plus interest compounded daily on the whole shebang. He told me my threat wasn't just a threat. It was a legitimate financial atom bomb. He said that if I wanted to proceed, the first step would be to amend my own tax returns for the past 3 years, the statute of limitations for amended returns. Since I didn't legally have to pay rent, I wouldn't get a refund, but it would create an official record that I claimed to have paid them rent. Step 2, he said, was to file a Form 3949A, the official information referral to the IRS. A tip, he said, you provide the information and the IRS will take it from there. An audit is highly likely. I left his office with a clear path forward. The hurt was still there, a hot coal in my chest. But now, it was mixed with a cold, hard sense of purpose. They had given me the weapon themselves. They had built their lie on a foundation of financial fraud, and I was about to show them the real cost of it. My dream house is gone. The trust is gone. My family is gone. All that's left is to see this through. Part 3. The Nuclear Revenge Post subreddit. R. Nuclear Revenge, posted by U. Landlord Retaliator. Title: My parents stole my house fund and called it rent. So I introduced them to the IRS. For those who haven't seen my story on AITA, the short version is this. I gave my parents $72,000 over 4 years to save for a house. They spent it on my golden child sister's wedding. When I confronted them, they gaslighted me and said the money was rent. They dared me to do something about it. So I did. This is not a story about getting my money back. This is a story of malicious compliance. After my sister's screaming phone call and my parents' refusal to even acknowledge their theft, I knew reconciliation was impossible. They had stolen my future and felt entitled to it. My pain didn't matter. My trust didn't matter. All that mattered was my sister's perfect Instagram wedding. I followed the CPA's advice to the letter. It became my full-time obsession. First, I spent a week gathering every single piece of evidence. I printed out the bank statements from the last 4 years, highlighting every single $500 transfer to my father's account. 48 beautiful, consistent lines of proof. I wrote a detailed chronological narrative of the verbal agreement and the subsequent events, including the dates and summaries of the conversations. Then, I officially hired the CPA. We filed amended tax returns for the last 3 years. We didn't claim a deduction, as you can't deduct personal rent, but we attached a statement to each return clearly stating that these payments were made for rent at my parents' address. This created a paper trail. It was me, officially telling the U.S. government, I paid these people rent. Checkmate, Dad. The final step was the most terrifying and satisfying thing I've ever done. It was filling out Form 3949A, the tip line for the IRS. It's a surprisingly simple form. You list the people you're reporting, their address, and the details of the suspected tax fraud. Under the section, Alleged Violation, I wrote, with a kind of grim satisfaction, failure to report rental income for a period of 4 years, 2021-2025. Total unreported income, approximately $72,000. I attached my bank statements. I attached my sworn affidavit. I attached a copy of my CPA's letter. I put it all into a thick priority mail envelope, addressed it to the IRS office in Fresno, CA, and drove to the post office. Holding that envelope felt surreal. It was the point of no return. It was 4 years of my life, my dream, my betrayal, all sealed up and ready to be delivered to the one entity you don't mess with. I dropped it in the mailbox. The sound it made was so final. For the first few months, nothing happened. Life went on. I worked at my job, lived in my tiny apartment, and slowly started rebuilding my savings from zero. I maintained absolute no contact. I blocked them all, parents, sister, aunts, uncles who tried to mediate. I was an island. The silence was deafening. Sometimes I'd wonder if I had made a mistake, if the IRS had just tossed my letter in a slush pile. My sister's wedding was approaching, and I'd see posts from her friends on social media. The dress was bought. The extravagant venue was booked. It seemed like they were going to get away with it. And then, about 5 months after I sent the letter, I got a call from a cousin I was still on good terms with. He sounded panicked. "What did you do?" he asked. "Your parents got a letter from the IRS. They're being audited." TLDR. After my parents stole my $72K house fund and claimed it was rent, I followed through on my threat. I hired a CPA, amended my tax returns to state I paid rent, and filed an official report with the IRS, Form 3949A, for 4 years of unreported income. After 5 months of silence, the audit began. Part 4. The final update, subreddit. R. Nuclear Revenge, posted by You Landlord Retaliator. Title: Update. My parents stole my house fund and called it rent. So I introduced them to the IRS. It has been just over a year since the IRS audit began. The fallout has been catastrophic for my former family, and I have watched it all from a quiet distance. I am no longer filled with rage. I am no longer filled with hurt. I am just done. And I am finally free. The IRS audit was as brutal and efficient as you would expect. My cousin gave me occasional updates, painting a picture of pure chaos. My parents, who thought they could just lie their way out of it, were no match for a federal auditor. They tried to stick to their story, that the money was a gift, not rent. But the IRS had my bank statements showing 48 identical recurring payments. They had my amended tax returns. My parents had no ledger, no documentation, nothing to prove it wasn't income. Their own lie, the one they invented to gaslight me, became an undeniable fact in the eyes of the government. The final bill from the IRS arrived about 6 months into the audit. It was devastating. They owed back taxes on all $72,000 of rental income. But that was just the start. The IRS tacked on 1. A failure to pay penalty. 2. An accuracy-related penalty for substantial understatement of income, which is a hefty 20% of the underpayment. 3. Interest on the entire amount, compounded daily from the dates the taxes were originally due. The final number, according to my cousin, was somewhere in the high 5 figures, nearly $100,000, an amount they simply did not have. The consequences were immediate and severe. My sister's dream wedding imploded. The venue was canceled. The designer dress was returned at a loss. The whole fairy tale evaporated because their financiers were broke. She ended up getting married at the courthouse with a handful of friends present. I'm told she was sobbing the whole time. She and her husband now live in a cramped apartment, and my sister has had to get a real 9-to-5 job. My parents were ruined. Their savings were wiped out paying the initial penalties. To cover the rest, they had to take out a second mortgage on the family home, the very home they claimed I owed them for living in. Their retirement plans are gone. My father, who was planning to retire in a few years, will now likely have to work until he drops. They are financially crippled, all because they couldn't stand the idea of their son having something before their daughter got her fantasy. And me? The past year has been difficult, but it has also been liberating. Rebuilding my savings from scratch was humbling, but it was mine. Every dollar was earned and saved by me alone. I scaled back my dream. I looked at smaller condos, a little further from the city. 2 months ago, I closed on one. It's not the house I originally wanted, but it's mine. It has 2 bedrooms, a small balcony, and a quiet street. The moment I got the keys and stepped inside my own empty, silent home, I didn't feel triumph or revenge. I just felt peace. I have 0 contact with my family. They created their own nightmare. They stole from me, lied to me, and chose their lie over their son. They called my life savings rent as an insult, a way to dismiss my hard work. Now, that word is the reason they are buried in debt to the federal government. They have to live with the consequences of their greed every single day for the rest of their lives. I bought a new doormat for my condo last week. It says, "Welcome." It's a reminder that this place is mine, built on my own terms, and no one can ever take it away from me again.